I hated GCSE chemistry. I didn't like it. I didn't learn it. I thought it made no sense. I failed it in November year 11. Flash forward, and I managed to get a 9 in that same subject. And the most interesting thing was it turned out to be my favorite science. In this video, I'm going to be talking you guys through how to succeed and how to revise and study for the subjects that you hate / really don't like. Now, the main premise of this video, the underlying point I'm trying to make is, as you get better at any subject, the chances are you're going to learn to like it more. Because even if you don't like the subject, you like the feeling of being good at that subject. If you're new here, my name is Henry Brand. I'm a student at the University of Warwick, and I'm going to be uploading loads of study videos to help you in all areas of your life. So please subscribe, please leave a like. Right, so the first thing then I want to talk about is that kind of idea that as you get better at something, it becomes more enjoyable. I believe this is true, and I will explain why in more detail later on, but from my experience, this has happened with GCSE maths too. I remember in year 10, I was really unconfident at maths. My family, my siblings above me were very, very good at maths, got 9s and stuff, and I just felt unconfident. I was working at a kind of 5. I wasn't really putting effort in. And my dad, who studied maths at uni, he sat me down and he basically said, like, you can get a 9 in maths. He was like, just let me work with you. And originally at the start, I was like, nah, I can't. It was weird. It was like I had no confidence, kind of because I didn't like it. But one part of me, being honest, kind of enjoyed not being good at that subject. And we're going to talk a bit about reframing that mentality and reframing that mindset. So the next point then is, to achieve in a subject you don't like, you need to have a motivation coming from somewhere else, right? You may not be specifically motivated. Like, I wasn't motivated to be insane at chemistry, the subject, necessarily. That's not where my enjoyment, my passion for studying and all that lies. But I was motivated incredibly by the idea of getting all 9s, by the idea of achieving good grades, by the idea of opening doors for my future. That was my driving motivation. So if you've got such a powerful, strong driving motivation that it can get you through those boring moments, and believe me, I had loads of them, then you're in a very good place. So if you want to achieve and succeed in a subject you don't like, try and think, what am I actually guided by, right? What do I actually want to achieve? Because otherwise, what's the point? Right? If I didn't want to get great grades in my GCSEs or open up doors for my future, go to top unis and stuff, then why I wouldn't have even needed to revise chemistry. I could have failed it if that's what I wanted. So try and think bigger. Take a step back. Look at the bigger picture, because it is worth it. It's 100% worth it trying to succeed in every subject you can, right? And telling yourself that you can't is just going to damage you. So it's all about the motivation as well. Another thing then that I find really helpful is talk to your friends a lot, okay? So your friends may like the subject for one, and then you can try and ask them about that. But the more you're involved in that subject, the better, okay? And that's why I think it's also really important to learn around the subject. So one thing I did with chemistry and with science GCSE as well is I ordered this BBC Science Focus magazine. I subscribed to it for a few months. I think you could get it free or like very cheap for the first few months maybe. And I started reading like science magazines, and I started listening to science podcasts or watching science YouTube videos. And the more I kind of read around it, just that actual stuff that interested me, right? So you may be interested by space or that type of thing. And that may not be tested in a GCSE format always. There is space physics in physics, but you're allowed to be interested in science. And that massively helped me because things started to piece together. And I was reading this magazine and I was seeing comments about atoms and all the stuff that chemistry does. And I could see what the point of chemistry was. I grew such an appreciation for science, and that in turn helped me want to study chemistry. I understood it a little bit more, and more importantly, I enjoyed around it. Most people, most subjects I just enjoy learning around. So really try and think, how can I get involved in this subject in a way that isn't tested, that isn't, I have to do well in this specific exam, because you're allowed to enjoy subjects that you're not necessarily good at. And in turn, that will probably make you more motivated to revise them and get good at them. So I definitely recommend trying to look into some kind of like learning around the subject that you can do. It's really useful. And now science, I really love science. I didn't do any science A levels. I'm doing history and politics degree, but I really enjoy science. Again, then, if the kind of motivation side of things doesn't work for you, and it doesn't work for everyone, then you want to consider the discipline / reward system and kind of how you can get that to work for you. Sometimes it just requires discipline to grind through a topic you don't like, to work on a subject you don't like, to do an hour's Seneca when you don't really want to. And that discipline, again, it can come from the motivation, or it can come from other things. So I'd put my phone away, or I'd give my phone to my parents and say, give it back to me when I've done an hour's revision. Or I would kind of give myself, I didn't do this specifically, but you can give yourself a reward system. Maybe you can spend 30 minutes on an Xbox for every 30 minutes you study. That type of thing. Or you can go out to a party tonight if you study enough. Try and think about how can you give yourself rewards and incentivize yourself to study for these subjects. It's also important to note that you can drop a subject, right, or switch it. So if you are doing an A level, for example, you don't have to pursue that subject. I started doing economics and economics A level, and I switched to politics after like a month and a half because I just found it a bit boring, and I knew politics was where my heart was at, and so I switched, and that's also fine. You don't have to put yourself through a crazy grind. GCSEs in some ways, unfortunately, you kind of do, but as you level up the exam system, you don't have to go down the path you don't want to, right? You can go down the path you want to, and that's really nice and rewarding. So if you can get through that stage, then that's really useful. Now, something I touched on earlier was victimization, and I kind of want to talk about this again. I think, honestly, with me and maths, I kind of liked being that type of victim. I liked being not very good at it, messing about in class and stuff. And I think one part of me felt safe, not to get philosophical or anything, but one part of me felt safe to just be average. I felt safe to kind of be a bit below average. People would laugh at me, all that sort of stuff. I didn't have the courage back then to actually push for myself and try for myself to achieve something. I was happy to have just been oh yeah, I could have achieved that. But there's a difference between saying you could have achieved something and doing it. And again, with my dad, I remember saying to him at the start of year 11, I said I could get all nines if I wanted to, or it might have been year 10. I was yeah, I could get all nines. And he said, well, go on then, do it. And I did. So that proves you have to bridge that gap between, I could do it, and bridge that safety of being not ideal at that subject, right? So you shouldn't be happy with being really bad at a subject, okay? Unless there's, other specific reasons, and it is okay. You don't have to be naturally crazy mathematical. But I would suggest don't make that a core part of your personality. Oh, I'm bad at maths. These mantras that we tell ourselves are unhelpful. So try to not move away from kind of enjoying not really being good at a subject, not really engaging with a subject. That's not worth it. Put in the effort and you're going to get better. And that brings on to the final point, which is do not give up in that subject. Okay, just don't give up. You've got to keep going. You've got to have that growth mindset. People would always talk about growth mindset when I was in school, and you've probably heard of it. Your teachers have probably told you. I didn't realize how true it actually is. Growth mindset is just the idea that you can do something. You're not bad at a subject. You're not fixed with being bad at maths. If you put in the effort in the right way, then you can succeed. I hope that video gave you some advice, some motivation, some structure for achieving in subjects you don't like. Please subscribe, please leave any questions as well. I haven't really done a video like this before, so if you want to see more, then absolutely let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.